Hello, welcome to the channel, Kyle A0Z. And tonight on the Thursday night stream, we have Rebecca, K04KVG. Hello, Rebecca. How are you?
Hi, Kyle. How are you? I'm doing pretty
Good,
good.
good. Thank you for being on the stream. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having
So,
me.
yeah, so Rebecca's got a YouTube channel. I'm going to put it in the chat. It is called RF Quest. Let me put Rebecca's YouTube channel in the chat. Everyone, go out and subscribe to Rebecca's YouTube channel. And tonight we're going to talk about orienteering and ham radio and all the cool things. Rebecca, like I stalked her Twitter before we came on, and she's into some really cool stuff. So I think we're going to have a good discussion. But first, I want to ask you, how did you get into ham radio, and how did you get to this point? Like, I don't even know. Are you? I'm just going to let you answer. How did you get to this point?
Okay, so I learned about ham radio from a former coworker. He's been a ham since he was in high school, and my partner Ben and I, we like to do a lot of things, outside, hiking, mountain biking, things like that. And sometimes there's limited cell reception, so we got our licenses at the same time. His call is K04KBH, and we thought it was a great way to, have an alternative form of communication in the event that someone sprains an ankle, we can't find water, and and we end up upgrading to our general. And I mentioned before, I'm either going to get my extra or to learn CW next year, so we will see. Possibilities are endless, but that's how I got involved in it. And we also learned about sota. I can't remember if it was after our technician's exam or general, but there were some people outside with the club talking about, oh, what do you want to do with your license? And we were talking about we'd like to go hiking and be outside, and they told us about summits on the air.
Yeah.
And that's what got us into doing a few sota activations. And this is all January, February 2021. So I've had my license for almost 3 years now. So I'm still relatively new to the hobby.
Oh, you're an old pro. You're an old pro now.
So we did some sota activations in early 2021. I took a brief hiatus from ham radio, and then the first of the year, Ben and I were, in the New Year's resolution spirit, and wanting to get outside more, go places more, not, stay at home and run around, do our runs in the neighborhood over and over again. So Ben and I both went to a tech fest up in Metro Atlanta, and met some of this Georgia sota people, the W4G group, and also the Georgia Parks on the Air had a booth there. And I learned that some of these sota activations or summits are also pota references. So that got me interested in pota, because I've got a lot more state parks and WMAs nearby than we do summits. You have to go about an hour and a half, 2 hours to North Georgia to get to some of the summits. And so we decided, okay, well, let's go do a pota activation. Let's go to this park we will go to ride our bikes. And that kind of started pota for me. I had a Twitter account for some of the tech Twitter I was doing. I was transitioning from being an organic chemist, going into technology. So I started, ham radio's technology. I'm going to tweet about my ham radio, my pota activation. I put a tweet out about one of the first ones I did at the end of January, and I had no idea the people I would meet, the doors that opened, the opportunities that happened, and it has been fantastic.
Yeah.
I started volunteering with the pota dev team beginning back in March. I happened to see one of the AMAs that they were doing, I think, a live stream on YouTube earlier in the year, and I figured, what do I have to lose? I'll see if they need any help, and I've been volunteering with that ever since.
Oh, that's cool. That's neat. Yeah. The pota, like, so you learned about summits on the air before you knew about pota. Is that right?
Yes.
Gotcha. And then you learned about pota, and you're just like, oh, mind blown.
Yes, and that's where I've met so many people. And that's how I actually learned about orienteering. So I had met online first. Joe Domaleski, KI4ASK,
Yep.
him and his wife Mary Catherine, KI4HHI. They also, like Ben and myself, like to do physical activity while enjoying ham radio. So I saw a tweet, or Ben or myself saw a tweet that Joe had put out about orienteering, I think back in February. And we're like, that looks fun.
Yeah.
That looks useful. Just to being able, again, when you're out in the woods, you know, your GPS may die, your battery on your watch may die, your cell phone, all those things that could go awry, and you may have to figure out how to get
Back to,
help if
yeah.
someone sprains an ankle or something like that. Kind of like needing to do math without a calculator. I'm like, it would be very useful to learn how to use a map and compass.
Yeah.
So that's what got us into giving orienteering a try, and we were fortunate to have a club here in Georgia, the Georgia Orienteering Club, that had meets not too far away from where we live. I mean, some of them are 2+ hours away because Georgia's a big place, but we get to go when we can, and Joe and I will converse on Twitter or Instagram. Hey, are y'all going to this meet this weekend? And we'll kind of do back and forth sometimes. So it's really cool. Again,
Yeah.
Joe and Mary Catherine are super nice people, and I'm so glad that the people I've met through ham radio.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's still surreal.
It's a great community. It's a really great community.
It is.
So how many? I'm going to ask you about pota real quick, and then we're going to get right into orienteering. How many pota entities have you activated? Do you know?
Ooh.
All right. Let me rephrase that. How many have you done more sota or pota?
I've done more pota.
You've done more pota. Which do you like better?
Gosh, it's hard. It depends on the day, I guess.
So it's Sophie's choice.
So, pota is one of those. It's like you can go to a park and you can get everything set up on a park bench, and then you can also depending on what amenities a park has, you can go run on the trails, go mountain biking, things like that. So that's appealing to us as well. With sota, as you've maybe seen on some of my YouTube videos, I end up getting on these 18 to 20 mile day hikes.
Yeah, I saw that. When you said like, oh, I just finished a 20-mile hike, and I'm just like, I can't even drive 20 miles in my car without feeling exhausted. I was like, wow, that is crazy. And you did that on a sota summit, right?
Yes, it was Springer Mountain here in North Georgia.
It's the start of the Appalachian Trail.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we had done this one before a couple of years ago. It's like, that was one of those, we thought it would be about 13 miles. It ended up being about 18 to 20. So I'm like, okay, well, if I know what I'm getting into, it won't be as bad. No, ignorance was bliss.
That's great.
And then the next day, it's like, for the orienteering, because at first I'm like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to be able to make my start time. But I got up, I looked at the clock, and I'm like, okay, I've got enough time to get to my start. And since I got lost on the last one, I tried to do by myself. I've got a score to settle, so I had motivation to go finish this one up. So,
well, that's something I'm going to ask you about. But so
sure.
Let's get into orienteering. So what is orienteering? I think I did. James said somewhere that he did some orienteering back in the Boy Scouts, and I did some orienteering back in the Boy Scouts too. But what is orienteering in general? What is the concept?
It's a very high level. It's the sport of navigation. You have a map and compass and run through the woods. You can kind of think of it as a scavenger hunt in a way, where you have a map and you have clues to get to your next object that you find. Orienteering is very similar. With the point to point, which is the types of meets I've done, you have a map and you have these different points. And I can actually share the screen that I showed you a little earlier, if that would be helpful.
Let me bring up that screen. I am yeah, go ahead and share the screen. Did you share the screen on your side?
I did.
Okay. For some odd reason, it's not coming up.
Where is that?
I think you might have to reshare it.
Okay.
There you
Is
go.
that it?
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
So
There we go.
I can see this one here. So you go from, this is a point to point. So you start where there's a triangle in the middle. I don't know if my mouse is working, but you go from the different points. You'll see numbers. You go from, sequentially 1, 2, 2, 2. This one had 13 checkpoints. So you go from point to point, and you will see a control in the form of like a boulder, a slight depression, a junk pile, a bridge, and there's usually a bag there where that's the orange and white that you can, if you look up Orienteering, you'll see that symbol, and you punch the checkpoint to show that you've been there. Georgia does the electronic. You have a stick and you click it, you'll hear the beeps, and it records that you've been there, and you just go from point to point with your map and compass until you get to the end.
Yeah, I noticed. So who produces the maps? Like, do they give you the map at the start of the meet?
Yes. For this one in particular, we get the maps there. You'll get a map depending on which course you use. So there, in varying degrees of difficulty, you've got your beginner, your novice, intermediate, and expert. So they have that all separated out, and then you tell them what course you're doing, and they give you the map there.
Okay, and then so you've got to start. So let me back up. So there are sanctioned meets that you can. Is there a website that somebody can go to learn more about? Like, I live here in Missouri. I don't know if there's any meets, but is there like an ARRL that has different meet locations and times and when you can go?
Sure, there, and I'll give this one here. So orienteeringusa.org, and I'll throw that in the chat.
Yeah, so let's actually let's do you want to bring it
here.
up on a web page maybe and share it on your screen?
Sure, I'll actually bring it up.
Yeah.
Top here.
And then I'll put the link in the chat.
All right. So this is Orienteering USA. This will tell you some, a calendar of events. Clubs is probably a good place to start.
Are you sharing your screen, or are you sharing?
I'm on the correct screen. Let me stop sharing my other one. Let's try this again. All right. There we go.
There you go. Yep. Looks good.
All right. So if you go to orienteeringusa.org, events, clubs, this gives you a map of where you can find a club nearest to you. So you were in St. Louis.
Correct.
So you do have a St. Louis Orienteering Club in Chesterfield, Missouri.
Yep.
And here
where that's at.
This will be their website. Okay. And then here in Georgia, we have the Georgia Orienteering Club.
So I'm assuming that once you find a club, I'm assuming that they will have some type of like, hey, I want to get into this hobby. Can I find like an Elmer or a mentor to help me with my orienteering skills? Because, I'm not the greatest with a map, and you put a compass in front of me and I totally like blank out. So I'm assuming that there's some people out there that say, hey, come to our training class on Saturday and we'll show you all the things that you need to learn.
Yes, actually, now I'll speak for the Georgia Orienteering Club. That's one I'm most familiar with. So they do have a beginner's guide, and I can share that link here as well.
Cool.
That was going to be this one here. But throughout this season, they have had some Navigation 101, 102, and 103 courses where you have like a clinic that they kind of introduce you to orienteering and give you some tips and tricks to how to navigate through a course. So there's that option there for Georgia, at least. I'm sure other clubs have some similar offerings as well.
Yeah. So you go to the orienteeringusa.org site, and it will tell you where the sanctioned meets are at. And then do you typically have to sign up ahead of time and say, hey, I'm coming, or do you just show up?
For Georgia, you have to sign up in advance. They close their registration at 5 a.m. the day of the meet.
Gotcha.
So with that as well, so this is, I've registered for many running and cycling races over the years, but orienteering for me has been the first time they actually, you tell them your vehicle description, what you're wearing, because you don't have bib with like a number that identifies you like in a running race. That's, in case, I guess if something happens, they can account for you and make sure that, you come back to the trailhead.
You're not lost out in the woods just wandering all
Sure.
over the place. So you sign up and then you show up and you tell them what classification you are in, and then they give you the map, and then you supply your own compass, and they say, there's the start finish, or there's the start line. See you later. And you're off to the races. Is that how it usually goes?
Pretty much, but they do give you, so with Georgia, you have like an E stick to punch the control. So I rent one for I think $7. You can also, if you orienteer a lot, it might be worth getting your own. But what you do is you have that stick, they give that to you, and you clear it and check, and then from there they get your start time, and then they turn you loose on the trail.
Gotcha. Is the goal, so the goal is to see the checkpoints on the map and actually navigate to those locations based on bearings and different geological formations or symbols on the map that show different, like a depression or other things that you had talked about. And then is the goal to punch those locations as fast as you can? Is it's a race against time and you're racing against other people, or is it just a race just to finish?
So for a point to point, it is a race against the clock. The people who finish the fastest are the ones who win. There are also other variations. I haven't done these before, but a scoro, I believe, is one where there's like a certain time limit, and you have to hit as many checkpoints as possible within that time limit. The checkpoints are different point values, so that's another form of orienteering. And then there's the goat, which is more of a point to point, but it's more of an endurance. It's like a longer meet, a longer trail, and you do have permission to skip a checkpoint or two. It just depends on the race. And then there's also, Georgia is doing a relay in, I think, the next couple of weeks, where you have a team. One person will go through point to point. You come back. The other person gets a slightly different map. It goes through the same course, but different secessions, so people don't cheat. But the different variations. But from the kind of the common one is where you go point to point, trying to do it as fast as you can.
Yeah, gotcha. And then, so I noticed in your videos, you find a checkpoint. So you're navigating to the checkpoint, and you find the checkpoint. And it's usually, is there always a flag that is up signifying the checkpoint? And then you've got like this other, like it's almost like a real estate marker, right? And it's got like this little RFID reader in it, and then you take your RFID thing and you stick it in there to say, hey, I just marked this checkpoint, correct?
Yes. So well, in Georgia, we have the electronic system. I believe, I was just reading some other stuff in preparation, there's other ways you can just like punch, but I'm not familiar with those.
Gotcha.
But yeah, so with mine, you take the e-stick, hit it, and then it beeps, and you actually get a printout at the end, so it does record.
So
everything you do.
Yeah, so let's show that again.
All right, I'll show this here. Let's see if we can
gotcha. Yep.
see that here. So this is Ben and I's first meet. We did this one as a team. So it'll tell you, so you'll see those orange and white bags, and then the punch has a number. So you have to make sure that, for example, checkpoint 1 is number 63. So you have to not only hit the checkpoint, you have to hit the correct one. So you go through each of those, you check if it's the correct number, and then the far number, tells you the total time elapsed from point to
Right.
point. And then this column here tells you the time it took to go from point to point.
Gotcha. So you like zero out the RFID reader, the key, and it starts the timer, and then you find the first one, and you scan your RFID key, and it records all that stuff on the key, and then after you're done with all of the checkpoints, then you come back to the start finish line and give them the key, and then they read the key and print your results out.
So in Georgia, you actually get to do that. It'll have a little box that says download, and you'll punch that, and then it prints out for you.
Okay, gotcha. And then, so when do you know instantly whenever you put your key there and it reads it, is there like another screen or something that shows you the results of how you're doing, or your ranking among the people that have been doing the course?
So they do have a screen there that shows like the current results. It also prints out some as well. It'll tell you kind of who's all finished and where you rank within who is finished. But people, it's not always a mass start. So people start at staggered times. So someone that, if they're really experienced, they can start after me and just tear through the woods, and you'll see people just running, and those people can finish ahead of you. So once everybody finishes, you'll know where you rank. And the last meet I had, there was a QR code there you could scan to get up to the minute results. You can also look the day after on Georgia, and they'll have the results on the website.
Gotcha. So this is just a hobby, right? Is there like an ARRL league, or is it Orienteering USA, where they have sanctioned events, and like you can go to national or regionals and nationals, and it gets bigger and bigger? Is that, I'm thinking in my mind that's what's going on, but is that something that happens?
So yes, I'm not familiar with all of the different sanctioned events, but there's things at the regional and state levels, and then you've got your big national, and it's an international sport. So there's a lot of different sanctioned events there. A lot of the high schools, you'll see people from local high schools come and do these meets as well. I think they may be competing in the regional types of tournaments.
Gotcha. Yeah. So is there any prizes for coming in first place or second, or is it just all bragging rights?
In my experience, it's been all bragging rights.
It's like ham radio. There's you can spend 48 hours in a contest and come in first in place, and they're just like, good job.
Now, some of the sanctioned events, they're maybe more involved with that, or prizes, podiums, and all that kind of thing. But with the local meets I've done, it's been bragging rights.
Yeah.
Kind of competing against yourself.
Yeah. If you have any questions for Rebecca, please put them in the chat. Tag me or put question in the chat. I see that there's quite a few people in the chat that actually have done some orienteering, which is great. Ham Radio Adventure Guy says that he did it. I think maybe James from Quirky QRP maybe has done some orienteering stuff. Yeah, you guys have to share your experiences. I find it fascinating. Whenever I found Rebecca's channel, I was just like, oh my gosh, something that I haven't done. And I was fascinated by watching. I love whenever you show your meets and kind of like the strategy and stuff that is going through your brain whenever you're trying to find the next checkpoint. I noticed in a couple of your videos that, I think in one of your videos, you got off trail and you were trying to figure out what was going on. And so you called back to Ben, I think it was Ben. And how, so was it just a natural progression of, oh, I'm going out on the trail, I'm gonna get a handheld, an HT, and that's going to be my way to communicate if something goes wrong in the backcountry? Is that how it went?
For the most part. So Ben did a gravel grind around the park area. So it was one of those where we go to the same place and start, but I decided I wanted to give solo orienteering a try. And after 2 meets, why not, right?
Yeah.
I'm so ready for the solo opportunity. So we took HTs because he'd be within a kind of a line of sight sort of thing where we could communicate if we had to. So he took an HT, I took an HT. This was also a trail that we had ridden our mountain bikes on and done some runs. So it wasn't something that was completely new to me. I figured with a solo orienteering meet, I should go somewhere that's kind of familiar and not do a night orienteering meet, which those are a thing.
Oh.
So I'm like, let's just do this in the daytime, do the beginner course, take it easy. But yeah, we took our HTs, and I figured I would have been done before he got back from his ride. That didn't happen. So that was one you mentioned, like what's going on in my mind as I'm going through this.
Yeah.
So I had gotten halfway through this course by myself, and I'm like, this is going well. I'm rocking this. This is great. And eventually I got off course. And what really, of course it seeing the bags, the orange and white bags, and they're not being the checkpoints that were mine because the numbers didn't match up, and that's disheartening.
Yeah.
But there was a point where I am, looking at the map, my compass is telling me to go in a direction that was taking me outside of the state park boundaries. And I'm like, no, they're not going to have us go on private property.
Right.
So it was like, okay, I've gotten off, where did the breakdown happen? I got through halfway. So I was trying to think about like, okay, what were my steps, or what was I doing with the map and compass? What I had done was I would see, so you'll line the bezel up on your compass with the magnetic North Pole on the map. So they're parallel. When I was walking, so I line them up and then I start walking to my next checkpoint. You're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to leave it alone. You don't touch it. But what I had done was I'm like, oh, I must have knocked my bezel because it wasn't quite parallel on the map. Let me fix this. And I'm pretty sure I did that more than once, and that was what got me all turned around. So yeah, definitely, it wasn't. I was able to get out before it got dark. I wasn't lost in a place where I was completely in the wilderness. I would have tried a little longer to have tried to finish the course. Finishing last, I would have finished. It was my first solo meet, so last is finishing at this point.
Right.
But so with renting the sticks, Georgia understandably charges you $35 if you don't bring it back. They've got to have that incentive so they can give them out for the meets. But it's like, okay, and Ben's on the HT at the trailhead. He's like, they're packing things up, and I'm like, okay, all right, I gotta cut my losses. I'm gonna have to say this is a DNF. Let me retrace my steps back. So get somewhere where I was familiar, and I happened to get near this little pond and pavilion, which I'd seen before on our mountain bike rides. So I was able to give Ben my location, and he, came down on his bike, and we walked back to the trailhead. Luckily wasn't too far, but we were laughing about how far off I got, and I was just talking through. I said, I think I messed with the bezel when I wasn't supposed to, didn't I? He's like, yeah. So it was a good lesson to learn. It wasn't, the worst case. I had a DNF in broad daylight, but it was definitely one where it's like I was annoyed at myself, but I'm like, you got to shake this off. This is a hobby. This isn't for a grade. You've got plenty of meets to try again at. So,
Yeah.
be annoyed, but shake it off for next time.
Well, you probably learned a ton, right? I mean,
Yes.
every failure, actually, probably every activation, but every failure, you learn something, right?
For sure. It's like, even when Ben and I would orienteer together, we were using, well, the first time we only had one map and compass, and we learned that we both need them because I'm like, we both need to be able to see things at the same time and walk around and kind of see what's going on. But I definitely realized it's like, I haven't really used a map and compass by myself.
Yeah.
And, learned set the bezel and forget it.
Yeah. Yep.
So that
Brooks,
was definitely one of the takeaways.
Yeah. So Brooks, WB6EDK says, could you have her describe a typical point-to-point procedure, i.e. using map, compass, bearings to a peak or determine current location? So basically, how do you do orienteering? And that's a great segue. We're talking about the technical or the procedural part of it, of like, getting to the point and putting your checkpoint. But there's a whole other realm of how do you actually do this? Like you know your starting position and you know where the first checkpoint is, but how do I get from point A to point B by just using the map and a compass, right?
Yeah, I'll see if I can explain this without being on a course. I'm going to share another link. This is Joe Domaleski's link, KI4ASK. This is the link that got us into orienteering, and he does a great job of explaining this.
Okay.
I will
do what I can. And I see the other questions. We're going to get to the other questions here on James has got a question. Chris has got a question.
Where did my chat go? Here it is. I can throw this one in here. Not that one. No. Well, I'll throw the chat in a minute, and I'll see if I can answer the question.
Are you putting it into the private chat or the YouTube chat?
I put it in the YouTube chat, but my copy and paste gave me the wrong orienteering thing.
The YouTube chat gobbles up websites. It says, "Oh, you can't post that," and so you'll have to put it in the private chat, and then I can transfer it to the public chat. Oh my gosh, it's public and private keys here, and we're just talking about chats. So yeah,
let's see. I'll put that one in here.
So this
happen.
So this is just like a primer on here we go. All right. Oh, okay. Got his YouTube channel here.
And I will share the screen again and with that map, and I will do my best, Brooks, to walk you through it without being at the actual meet.
Yeah, so I'm going to put in the chat. This is Joe Domaleski's KI4ASK. If you haven't subscribed to Joe's YouTube channel, go out and subscribe to Joe's YouTube channel. He's got interesting stuff. But it looks like to me this website is basically him. Are you sharing your screen? Let's add this to the mix here.
Looks like I was. Where?
Yeah, you were. I think it's still on the old. Let me remove that.
Stop sharing and try this again. All right, let's go here. Come back. Sharing a window. Why is it sharing that?
Let me see if I can, let's see, share my screen, and I'm going to share. I'm going to add this to scene. So there's Joe's YouTube channel, and he is obviously I've watched up to 10 minutes and 24 seconds of this video already.
I think that was the link where I'd stop, because I actually refer to this one when I need a refresher. So thank you, Joe, for this video, by the way.
Yeah. So go out and watch Joe's video. And I'm assuming who asked that question? I think it was Brooks.
Those
Yeah,
books.
Brooks will give you a good download on orienteering. I know that you've got magnetic north, and then you've got true north, and you got to set your bezel, and then you've got your bearing on where your first checkpoint is. And what I don't understand is typically that is a straight line, right? But you're not going in a straight line. Are you following trails along that path and then just readjusting on, all right, I think I need to go this way. And then you might go that way for a little bit and then go another way and then go another, and just you're constantly readjusting as you're making your way through to the first checkpoint.
So yes, you actually don't have to follow the red line as you see on the maps. If there's a trail that will get you, as long as you got your map and compass and going in the, and getting the right direction, you can, hop on a trail that gets you somewhere faster. Or, some places, if it's a super big climb, and then there's another way that can, get you there without the elevation. So you can definitely, use your map and compass and the trails that are accessible to you to get from checkpoint to checkpoint without having to necessarily go in the straight line that may not be the most productive.
Gotcha. Okay. So go watch Joe's video and then come back and ask some questions.
So at a high level, what you basically do is you set your compass, you align it on the path, like from point 1 to point 2. Then you take your bezel on your compass, align the north with the magnetic north on the map.
Yep.
And then you turn yourself to where your compass needle is. For this case, it's in the north position. So for this one, well, it's not going to show it, but when you get your compass, your needle,
yep.
When your needle is in this slot for north, when you got all that lined up, you are set to go in the
in the right direction.
So
Red in the shed.
Yes.
Put red in the shed, right? You always want to find red in the shed.
Yes.
Gotcha. We got some more questions up here. James said, oh, that's the wrong question. James said, what is Rebecca's favorite compass brand, model, and style of compass?
So far, this campus, it is the MA-40-FS model. This is the only one I've actually used. I actually like it. It's nice to kind of have it on your thumb where it's one less thing you're having to carry in the woods. So I like thumb compasses. I find them less cumbersome.
What's the difference between a regular compass and a thumb compass? Now I'm intrigued.
Okay, so this one, you set it up. So I'm left-handed, so I got this on my left hand. Let's see if I can kind of show what I got going on here. So you've got this is your direction.
Yep.
And then you just line. Let's go from 3 to 4. So you
gotcha.
Kind of line it up there. And it's nice to kind of, you're not having to fumble with your compass. You got your stick on your other hand, even though you have like a drawstring where you can keep the stick on your finger and you got some elastic to keep it there. It's just nice to kind of, you can kind of walk around. You're not dropping it all over the place. So
yeah, okay, gotcha.
I do like a thumb compass.
Okay, very good. So we got some more questions here. Let's see. There was another question that I'm trying to find Josh asks, question, do you mainly use base plate compasses? I like the lenstatic compasses most of the time now when hiking around.
So I'm actually a newbie to orienteering. So this compass here is actually my first compass that's been mine. I've used some of Ben's plate compasses a little bit before we ever orienteered, but I like this one for orienteering so far. But since I'm still new to it, I'm not going to be, I have to have this compass all the time or I'm going to have a meltdown that I can't use my compass. So yeah, that definitely, something happens to this one, kind of open to seeing what else might be out there that I might like.
Gotcha. 45 Audio says, am I tardy? Yes, you are. You're always tardy. But that's okay. We like, I don't feel tardy. Class dismissed. That was a Van Halen reference. Yeah. So I think I didn't have any more questions. And I forgot where I was at in the in my list of things to ask. Yeah, go ahead.
So before we get leave the orienteering subject, I do want to say too, with getting started, or if you want to practice, there are several opportunities to go orienteer on a permanent course. So it's not always a meet situation. There are 3 permanent courses in Georgia, and there actually is a permanent course that Joe and Mary Catherine found at Monte Sano in Huntsville.
Oh, how about that? Is it on the mountain?
I don't know, but I can imagine it's probably up, down,
yeah,
up.
Yeah, that mountain goes
crazy
straight
elevation.
Up. Yeah, it is pretty steep. And then whenever you get up to the top of that mountain, the campground is up there, and a bunch of us stay up there, and it is amazing how you step out some of those cabins and you're looking out past Huntsville or on top of Huntsville, and you're just like, we're quite a ways up. And being in Alabama too.
Yeah, North Alabama is hilly.
Yes. Yeah. It's you wouldn't think it's hilly. I mean, I always think of North Alabama as Tornado Alley or Dixie Alley as they call it. But yeah, there's a lot of hills there.
Yeah, there's permanent orienteering courses that you can choose from. I know the one, I believe in Georgia, you just go to the State Park Visitor Center, pay a fee, ask for the map, and they turn you loose out there.
Gotcha. And so if it's a permanent course, do they is it just for fun, or do they actually record times and how fast people go through the course and display them on a website for people to say, hey, I did this the fastest today or the fastest this month, or how do they usually do that?
I don't know if they record any of the timing or anything going through it. It's more of a, I guess, kind of an exhibition. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Just, if it's off season. So here in Georgia, the season goes from about Labor Day weekend to mid-late May. I can only imagine orienteering in the summer. By the way, wear pants whenever you orienteer. That'd be my recommendation, because you're not always on trails. And if you don't want to get all scratched up, pants.
Gotcha. James says, be wary of cheap compasses on Amazon. Many of them are not accurate. Yes. I actually got a compass that wasn't magnetic. It just flopped around, and it only cost me $9. But yeah, be aware.
So my metric with this one so far is, I know magnetic north is correct because I know where the interstate is relative to my house. So that's my check.
That's your check. That's your check. Ham Radio Venture Guy James says, where do you do orienteering and mountain biking, and also like sota, have you ever thought about adventure racing? So I guess his first question is, are there any places around you that do orienteering and mountain biking?
I haven't found any, but that is a thing. It's just, instead of walking or running through checkpoints, you do it on a mountain bike. That, as a mountain biker, that sounds awesome. So I will definitely have to look into seeing, if any of those are local to me or local-ish enough. Um, I have done, mountain biking. There's some of the state parks around here have mountain biking trails. Actually, one of the orienteering meets, the one I did the most recently, was on the mountain biking trails. There's some in North Georgia that I've gone to. Bull Jake Mountain is one I've done. Definitely a strenuous one, pretty climby. Some XC outside of Gainesville, Georgia is a nice one. Long XC is kind of where it's at for me on single track, is just kind of nice, slow, fun, versus, I can appreciate and respect downhill, but that's a little too much for me.
Yeah.
It can be pretty serious.
I did a downhill course. They trekked us up to a mountain, and we just rode, I think it was 10 miles downhill in college. And I remember, I'm just like, never again. I've never been so scared in my life,
Because it's like, if I'm taking a ski lift up, I don't know if I'm ready for that.
Yeah. It was straight down, and it, like, at every single bump, I'm like, this one's gonna put me over the handlebars. Nope, this one is. Nope, this one is. And I was just like, I couldn't believe that I made it. I was sitting on the back of my seat the whole time. It was crazy.
That's good though. That way your weight's behind you.
Oh yeah. I was so afraid that I was gonna take a nosedive. Chris,
I don't want to go OTB.
yeah. Chris asks, I bet ticks are a real threat. What do you do to thwart ticks? Thwart ticks. Ooh, that's a tongue twister.
So yes, so I use DEET spray in the summertime. Because in the woods in Georgia, they're around.
Yeah.
And I would rather, prepare myself with the DEET spray than get any kind of tick-borne illnesses. I hear they're awful.
Yeah. I'm sure that they're not fun. Yeah, very good. There was something else that I was going to ask you, and then I got lost in the chat. That's how my mind happens. It's I have a good question, and then it gets it's first in, first out sometimes with these streams. But I think we've managed through all the questions. Anything else that you want to talk about orienteering, or any thoughts about the hobby that you want to share?
Yeah, if anyone's interested in orienteering, check out the Orienteering USA, or just do a web search on clubs near you. What's great about it is there are different, very multiple difficulties that you can do. It's not always like easy or extreme difficult. There's definitely something that would work. See if there are any navigation clinics that the club has. Take advantage of those. It's really, if you like being outside, if you like hiking, mountain biking, trail running, or anything like that, I imagine you're going to love orienteering. I'm actually one. Being on trails is actually a relatively new thing to me. If someone had told me 15 years ago I'd be talking to Kyle live about playing in the woods, I would have laughed in your face. It was definitely, it was never like no way. Camping, no way. No. Trail running, no. I'm just gonna run on pavement. But I got a taste of hiking and mountain biking, especially the mountain biking, and that's what hooked me.
This picture right here, it's got a million things going on. Please tell me that people just kind of show up and do their own thing, and there's not like this mad line to get the RF reader, like, to get there's not a line to get to the first checkpoint. Like, tell me that it's kind of spread out and everyone's nice to one another, and there's not like, a line to get into and make your checkpoint RFID reader go off. Is there?
Yeah, my experience is we haven't had this line of people fighting each other to get to the checkpoint. So
people bashing each other, like, get off my checkpoint.
No, I have not seen any of that, thankfully. With the staggered start times, that helps people kind of spread out and do their thing.
Yeah,
And if I see people that, because sometimes the trails will kind of overlap with each other. So if it's like if I see someone, if I'm walking, after a 20-mile hike because I'm not going to run, if someone's tearing down the trail, I will get to the left and let them go.
yeah, yeah.
So I've seen people be pretty courteous. I try to be as courteous as I can as well. So fortunately, people have been pretty polite on things.
Here's a good picture of that RFID reader and the key that you insert into the box, and it looks like somebody is clearing their key right here at the start
Yes.
start line, right?
So yeah, at the start you'll clear the key, and I always do that because if it's one I'm renting, and even if it wasn't, it's easy enough to clear start. So that's what that's at. That's what that's
Yeah,
doing.
gotcha.
The person doing. There's some etiquette.
Yeah, there's some etiquette on don't be a lid. Where's the don't be a lid for basic etiquette? Yeah, your general stuff, right? Give the right of way, be clean, be courteous, navigate, follow instructions, don't be a lid. How to navigate. Yeah, so Brooks, I think that this website's got some really cool stuff too.
This video here, is at Northeastern Ohio Orienteering Club. That's also a very good overview of how to orienteer. Then they're actually tearing through the woods. They're running, but don't feel you have to run if you don't want to. You gotta take it at your own pace. Make sure like a lot of these courses have a certain like course limit, so you'll get finished before then. But other than that, you're not having to sprint through the woods if you don't want to.
Yeah, very good, very good. Anything else about orienteering? And then I'm going to ask you one last thing that I'm fascinated about that I think we should share also. Let me stop sharing here. Anything else about orienteering? No. Rebecca, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry. I think I lost you. Is there anything else that you want to talk about with orienteering?
I think that's pretty much it. Yeah, give it a go. Start slow, work your way up, and have a good time, and you'll meet some
Yeah.
good people.
Yeah. Yeah. The last thing that I want to share here, let me share this screen. Let's see. Let me get. So this is the ARDC screen. If you don't know anything about the ARDC, you should go out and read up about the ARDC. They are a very cool organization that is basically they have a lot of money and they give a lot of grants and they do a lot of cool things.
Sure.
ARDC is scholarships. Here's their mission statement. They are basically advancing amateur radio digital communications to basically broaden the hobby, broaden technology, broaden all the cool things that people are doing, experimentation, education, development around radio, and it's a great group. But I just learned after stalking your Twitter that you are now the communications manager for the ARDC.
I am. I've been at ARDC for 6 months, and it has been fantastic. Um, like Kyle was saying, we have a grants program, and also we manage the 44net. With grants, we fund projects that are, amateur radio, digital communications based, research and development, and of course scholarships, and manage the 44net, where that is, IP addresses that are allotted for ham radio experimentation. So definitely check out our website, ardc.net. We're on Twitter, Facebook. We have Groups.io. That's a pretty big community there. I encourage you to check that out to learn more about us.
Yeah. And if you have a idea for a grant and you want to write a grant, there is apply for a grant here, and it will probably give you some information. I know that I think today, the ARRL announced another round of grant proposals. I think it's worth $2.1 million that the ARDC is giving the ARRL to fund amateur radio projects, education. Basically, if you go out to the ARRL website, probably soon they will have some links where you can go out and fill out a grant program, and if you got a good enough program and write a good enough grant proposal, the ARRL will give you some dollars to fulfill that proposal, and all of that money comes from the ARDC, which is awesome, which is great.
That was their club grants this year mentioned
Club
specifically.
Grants. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I had congratulations on that appointment. I think that's great.
Thank you.
The ARDC
so much.
is a great group. I wish that I'm going to give my plug here. I wish that they somebody needs to write a grant. Here's my proposal for a grant. Someone needs to write a grant to further contesting technology, and we need to make contesting more like a video game to get more kids involved, and we need technology to do that. If that's VR headsets, if that's updating the online scoreboard so we can have real-time results instead of submitting a Cabrillo file and waiting 6 months to wait for scores. I mean, there's so many cool things that we could do with contesting, but we need people, we need money, and we need people to write code to make all that stuff happen. So if you know somebody that knows code, we need you to write a grant for the ARDC so we can make this happen. Make the gamification of ham radio, the gamification of contests. That's what we need. So that's my plea. It's my plea to my audience here. All 62 of you of watching, or however many are watching. I think we hit something like, I don't know, about 75 people or so. So anyway, that's my plea.
ARDC.net/apply.
Yes, that's where you need to go. Please go do that. Well, we're at an hour. Thank you, Rebecca, for being my guest. I learned a ton. Go out and subscribe. I had a brain fart there. Sorry. Subscribe to Rebecca's YouTube channel. I will put the YouTube channel in the chat again. And she mixes ham radio and orienteering. And do you have any other videos out there, or are you trying to just put YouTube or ham radio stuff on your YouTube?
So mine's more dedicated to ham radio. You'll see some ham radio and hiking, maybe some ham radio and mountain biking someday. But yeah, usually Ben and I combine our love of being outdoors and doing physical activity with ham radio. So that's what you'll see on our channel, and a few instructional pieces here and there.
Very cool. Very cool. And I hear that you're, are you going to go to Hamcation? Are you going to try and make it down to Hamcation? We talked about you're going to go to Hamvention, but are you going to try and get down to Hamcation?
That one's up in the air, so we will see.
If not, you'll find Rebecca and Ben at Hamvention. I think that you mentioned that you are going to try and make it to Hamvention, right?
Hamvention, yes.
Yep. It is a big place. It's my only advice is don't get overwhelmed. It's
take it little chunks at a time.
Yeah. If you're going to be there all 3 days, just take it chunks at a time. It's great. But also go to all of the after things. It's not just Hamvention is not just walking around the Greene County Fairgrounds during the day. There's so many things that go on at the Hope Hotel and other places. There's banquets, there's parties, there's all of these other things that happen, and that's what's great. I love the after events where you can get together and talk ham radio with people that, you know, you only see once a year maybe, but it's like it's like you saw them yesterday and you just catch up with them again, and it's great. It's
Awesome.
an awesome place. Yeah. All right. That's it. That's all I got. Yeah. Thank you, Rebecca, for being my guest. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I definitely appreciate the invite.
Yeah, not a problem. I learned, I try and make these streams educational on things that I like, and hopefully that you guys like them too. A little programming note. In 2 days, I'm going to Walt Disney with my family and my niece, and there is not going to be a CW stream, a CW Roundtable stream on the 11th. We are going to push it until the 18th. And that will be the last one of the year. So be looking for that at 8 p.m. on the channel on the 18th. We're going to talk to Frank's stepfather. His name is Scott. I forgot his call sign, but he has a Morse code tutor that we're going to review and take a look at that. So be tuned in for that. And then whenever I get back on the 13th. On the 14th, I'm going to have... oh my gosh, my brain escapes me. I will have KB9VBR Michael. Oh my gosh, KB9VBR Michael on the show. And I just bought an RV, and he has I just bought a teardrop, and he has a teardrop. Yeah, so we are going to talk about ham radio and teardrops and doing ham radio out of campsites and all the things that happen, all the things, cool things you can do with ham radio and an RV or a teardrop and some pull behind trailers. So be looking for that on Thursday, the 14th. So yeah, that's what's happening. All right. Very good. I'm going to shut this down. Thank you, Rebecca. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And we will talk to you guys later. 73.
73.